with mine is I could literally not do anything. I could not open any of my games. I could not open Chrome. I could not open the new Edge browser. I could literally do nothing on it. I had to revert it to 8,
Well,
which is what I had before, just in order to use my computer again.
is your computer a little newer or a little older?
Newer.
Did you did you get were you at the highest qualifications or were you at the lowest? 410.
Higher.
Well, maybe it has some issues with higher, like, sometimes it's weird. It does weird things. But that's my guess. It was having issues because you were a little too high for it. I don't know.
Maybe.
Because I remember, like, Windows 7 a while back when Windows 7 came out, people were having problems where it didn't like the fact that they had, like, really high, like their computer was really good. And for some reason, Windows 7 was like going, nope, nope, nope. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. Why does it have problems with that? That doesn't make any sense.
I don't know either, but I'm gonna stay on 8 until 10. I hear that 10 is more polished and actually ready.
Okay. Well, I switched over because I just did. I mean, because everybody was going, it's working for me, and I'm like, okay, it works pretty well. I mean, I think the only like gripe I have is sometimes like the built-in graphics driver that I'm not using because I'm using an actual good one that I got for my birthday. Um, Complains about it because it can't update itself because there's no version for Windows 10 for it. And I'm like, well, I'm not even using you. Why does that matter? I'm like, what? But it's like, but I but I'm like in here. You have to like acknowledge and know that I can't update. I'm like, well, good for you. Because like, what else am I supposed to say? There we go. I'm streaming away. Stream away.
Awesome.
Hoping it's. Ooh, I have 2 people already watching. Huh.
Nice.
Hopefully. Well, I know one's me. I don't know who the other person is. Let me make sure my thing's connected. Okay, let's see. Settings. I love the fact that it echoes. Like when like the sound stuff echoes. It's like I don't know why it echoes, it just does. Okay, so let's see. I'm trying to decide what my first step should be. I think I'm gonna have to make the machines so I can even aim for this armor. So I need. Come here, notebook. Notebook, come here. I have a notebook. Do I have a pen? I think I have a pen. Maybe. Okay, I guess this one will work. Okay, so
I'm still drinking.
of course you are. You're just gonna drink yourself until you pass out, huh?
Actually, I've never drank that much.
Well, I hope you never do.
I know how to pace myself so that I can keep getting more and more drunk, but not get to the point where I black out.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Skeletons above me, and I can hear it. It's scaring me. And figure out how to power those things.
Hmm.
Okay, how do I make it? Alright then. Still casing. How do I make that? Unnamed. Unnamed nugget. Okay. Don't you love those things? Okay.
Oh yeah.
Alright. So it means we are going to have to get upgraded pretty fast. Just started on new map. Okay, I know this is a strange conversation to be having, but what do you like? How do you feel about um, like um, like supernatural stuff?
Like the existence of ghosts and things?
Yeah, like that.
Actually, I have some first-hand experience with that kind of thing.
Same here. Like big, and it's kind of crazy, but yeah. You know, I need to turn up my mic on here. So, because I realize that most of the time the people can hear me but can't hear the other people, and sometimes can't hear me but can hear like the person I'm talking to better. Okay. Anyways, but yeah.
Ah.
So, you want to tell me your ghostly experiences?
Well, first, go to that website and then look at the pictures, the center picture on the front page.
Okay, hold on. Sun's up, but I keep hearing a skeleton close by. Those things can kill me real fast. Which picture? Just like the fact that it's a house. It's a really cool looking
Yeah,
house.
it's pictures of the house. I used to live in that house when I was about 12 or so.
That's pretty cool. And it was completely haunted, wasn't it?
Not completely. In the back of the house, by the back door, there's a small landing, and it has a staircase that goes down to the basement.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you go down like 6 steps, there's a small landing, it turns left, you go down 12, 15 more. But halfway down it, which is also underneath the back entry, there was this hollow space under the floor. And we figured that at one point that house must have been part of the Underground Railroad.
That's pretty cool.
And when we walked past that hole, I always felt anger and hatred. And I don't know, one time I just sat down there and I just kind of emptied my mind of thought and I listened. And I kind of learned this story of 3 slaves were found there and they were killed inside that house, probably even inside that hollow in the rock under the floor.
Yeah.
Because originally that area was hidden, but it looked like the rock had been cut.
Oh. Okay.
And so it's like, I think the slave hunters discovered that people were hiding there and they cut away that rock and they found and killed the slaves. And I don't know really how I learned the story. I couldn't tell you the exact mechanism, but I learned it from these dead people. And
They probably psychically told you, like inside your head, because usually that's how
Yeah,
most
probably.
spirits communicate, anyways. Um, well, let's just say I've probably had experiences pretty much all of my life.
I'm not quite finished. And so I was kind of said, alright, I'll let people know your story, and the anger and everything, it changed so rapidly to happiness and thankfulness. And then all of that transformed into contentment, and then they left.
Hmm. You
So,
basically help them
yeah,
move move over.
yeah, and I don't talk about it much, but I've told people when that kind of conversations come up.
Yeah, that's a cool story. I mean, it's not as it
And I just,
it's cooler than most of my stories.
yeah, I mean, I don't know of many people that can actually say that they've communicated with people from the distant past like I have.
Well, I've never really communicated with spirits. Well, that I know that I can remember, but I've seen basically seen them almost my whole life. Like, because I used to go to daycare before I started school. Right before I started school, I moved into I joined this new daycare, and basically it's in this building that used to be an elderly home place or a mental hospital. I'm not really sure, but it
Huh,
was very active, and it's it got turned into office buildings, like an office building basically. But like on the second floor of it was our daycare, and um, I really hated going to daycare there because like I always felt like things were always around, and there was this really mean elderly gentleman ghost who liked pushing um, women and girls down the stairs, or try to anyways. And I hated
huh,
going there because he was always in the stairwell, and so it was I always worried that he was going to push me because I think he tried a couple times when I was younger, but it was I started holding on to the railing really like like death grip sort of style to go down the stairs because it's
I
ah.
see.
And then one time, because we because I was going to this daycare all year round almost. So in the summertime, we would be getting ready to go to the swimming pool. So we would change in our swimsuits and then go to get into the van to go to the pool. And so there's this like single bathroom that had only one stall. Um, and so I was in there and I was getting into my swimsuit and I heard the door open. So you know how you can look through the crack, and no
Yeah,
one came in. Like you could see the door open all the way. No one was there. It closed, and then the sink taps turn on, turn off. The door opens and then closes, but there was no one. Like I could see no one. It freaked me out. I was standing there going,
dang.
yeah, and like, there was for a little while. Like recently, I started realizing this, but I had a ghost, a little ghost boy for a friend for a little while I was going to daycare there. I didn't realize that until later on, but because I would hang out in there was a sandbox that was farther away from all the other playground equipment, and I would hang out there all the time by myself pretty much, except for this little boy. But no one I noticed that I started realizing, thinking back, no one really talked to this boy except me. or looked at this boy, and he never like was inside the building with us. Like, but at the time I didn't like think about it when I was a kid, because you don't think about those things, right, when you were a kid. So I would just play in the sandbox with him, and then like when people started like saying that there was like nobody there, or that I was like seeing things, or I was crazy or whatever, like I stopped seeing him after that. But when I got old enough to walk home from school, I would walk by the daycare, because the daycare was still going on. It was just I could walk home now, and I would see the same little boy sitting in the sandbox, um, playing with someone else, a little kid, and I realized that it was a ghost. I was like, oh, that would explain a lot. But it's like I didn't
In
realize
many
that.
ways, children are so much more open minded about things than adults will ever be.
Well, some kids, because some of the kids, some of the meaner kids at the daycare were the ones who told me I was crazy, or there was no one there, kind of situations. But
Well, the kids that weren't overly influenced by the disbelief of the adults in their lives.
I mean, I told my parents about things, but my mom really didn't say I was seeing things or I was crazy, but she was like, "Oh, good for you," because she wasn't really paying attention to what I was really saying, when I was younger. But um, like recently, my mom's starting to like, because I was like, "Mom, I have to tell you something. I have to tell you something," and I told her it, and um, at first, she was not very happy because she didn't really believe in ghosts when I told her. But I think my mom's become a little bit more open minded, I think. But right after my grandpa died, um, it was right after his funeral, and we had buried him. Um, I saw him in the middle of the night standing in the doorway, and he smiled at me, and I just went back to bed, basically, because like I woke up, like I didn't know why I woke up, and then I heard footsteps coming down the hallway, and I looked towards the door because the door was slightly open, and he was standing. He was standing in the hallway, looking in through the crack at me, and he smiled, and I just smiled back at him and lay back down and went to bed. Like went back to bed, and like I still can remember it to this day. It like it wasn't a dream, because I can truly like see, like remember all of it. It was just
You
weird.
know you were awake.
Yeah. And it was weird but comforting, because then later my grandma likes telling a story where she had a dream right after my grandpa died, that he was running through the field with one of their dogs who had died, and it was like this most beautiful field. So it was like my grandma knew he was in heaven with the dog. And so it was like, I wonder if she had that dream the same night I saw him in the house, kind of situation. Like he came for a visit right after after he was buried, to make sure we were okay, and to let us know if one of us saw him that he was okay. Because I think he was dying from cancer or something, if I remember right. I was really young when it happened, so I don't really know. I can't remember what he died from, but it just was really comforting, because it was like, oh, it's Grandpa. Okay, I can go back to bed now. It's like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
The bad part is, see, he was my step grandpa. My other grandpa, my mom's real dad, died, and he came to visit me too, but he scared me really bad, and so it was not as nice. And I don't think he meant to scare me, but he did. because I was still pretty young when it happened. I think I was about 10 when my biological grandpa died.
Ah.
I was about 10, and we were staying at a hotel, or I think it was a motel actually, with a crummy one. and all of a sudden, somebody was crouching in the little like closet nook area where the hangers were, and he just looked so creepy. It freaked the hell out of me, and even though I was afraid, I ran towards him to turn on the bathroom light. Doesn't make sense, but yeah.
Lights good of shadows.
Yeah, it was just weird. And then it's like after I had run and turned on the light, I realized maybe it was my other grandpa, because we were in the hotel because we were going to his funeral. And I was like, maybe it was grandpa, because I had remember other grandpa had come to visit, and I was like, why not? But at the same time, my mom's actual father, he was not very he was an okay guy. He wasn't nice, but he wasn't mean, but he was a really bad alcoholic, and he died. Like, we think he had a heart attack, but we're not sure. But
I
yeah.
see.
So I don't think a lot of the family at the time of his death was really close. So, and he never really got to know us, so it was like really like hard for me to connect with him. So that's maybe why he scared me. Or he might have gone to hell, which is a horrible idea, which I strongly do not believe in hell, but that's another conversation we can have later.
I do not really believe in heaven or hell or any religious kind of stuff.
I believe, well, I guess since we're going to have this conversation, we can have this conversation. I've decided to believe in the fact that if you believe you belong in heaven, you will make your own heaven when you die. If you believe you belong in hell, you make your own hell. I don't believe there's like any like religious connotations to that whole the whole idea. It's just it, if you believe in a religion, that's your heaven or hell related thing because you make it yourself when you die. But it's like it's not a if you believe there's nothing, then there's nothing for you. But other people have what they have, sort of things, like religious belief thing. That's what I believe,
Maybe.
anyways. It's just because I just hate hearing people tell me, even though I, for a long time, considered myself Christian, I hate hearing people tell other people or tell me that I was going to go to hell because I believed in things. And I'm like, why believing in these things will I go to hell? Like, it just didn't make any sense to me personally. So it was like, well, screw it then. I'm not gonna consider myself a Christian anymore if I'm gonna keep being told I'm going to hell for things.
Yeah. But the reason I stopped being Christian is because I just got so sick of the narrow minded thing where they only approved of people that believed exactly as they did.
Yeah, I totally understand that. Well, my issue was the what I called playing church, where like they were such hypocrites basically, where like you would see them not in church, like when they were out and about in the real world, they would be doing or saying or um taking part in acts that were unchristian like, and then be complete hypocrites and basically get on people's cases when you know the fact that they were doing the exact same thing. Stuff like that. It completely just drove me insane because it's like I, I'm not gonna say names here, but when I was younger, I know for a fact that someone who went to church and was all high and mighty went to a strip club because I saw him coming out of the strip club. And I was like young, but like I was driving by and I saw him come out of the strip club and I knew it was him. And then he was such a hypocrite. Like I didn't talk to him about it, but someone else got in trouble for going to the exact same strip club. And so he basically was like, "Oh, how could you? You're that's so not Christian." Blah blah blah. And it's like I was like, "Oh wow, talk about such a hypocrite." Stuff
Yeah.
like that.
The church I went to, um, my mom married a man from there. He was the head usher, and everybody knew that he was hitting my mother, abusing my mother. The pastor didn't do anything. The pastor, nobody did anything in the entire leadership of that church. They
Yeah,
all turned a blind eye to it.
assholes. That's all I had to say. They were
Yeah,
assholes. Period. Yeah, I hate things like that. It's like really, really, and it's like, and the other thing was that like I didn't understand the whole saying in the Bible. You have to fear God. But I'm like, why should you fear God if He's of love? Why should you fear Him? I didn't like understand why you have to fear somebody and love them and respect them and believe in them. I don't get the whole like reverent like fear. I never understood that. It was like, but God's love. Why fear love? I still don't get it, really, that whole thinking. But it's just like, why do I need to fear him? I don't get that. Because the way people said fear in quotation marks made me think that God, like, it was like God would be mad at you if you were cowering in, like, terror of him or something. Like, because I didn't understand why they were saying you have to fear God. I mean, that doesn't make any sense to me no matter what.
yeah.
But,
It's it's just to control. That's what religion is. It's control.
uh, yeah, and the other thing was that like, I didn't like, because I'm female, I personally didn't like the fact that the way the Bible was translated, um, in the church I was going to, basically was like, yes, women are part of the church, but they're lower than the men. I'm like, but most of the women in the church did a lot of work, like a lot of work. And I'm like, why are they lower than the men who do the exact same work? Like, I didn't understand why they're not equal. And like, why does it, like, how the people like talk about it? It's like men are like the leaders in the house, like the head of the house, and like the boss basically is how I like translated it. I'm like, why? I don't understand this. It's like, why are they the bosses? Because it seemed like most of the men, not saying all the men, but most of the men were very strict and very like controlling and very not always angry, but sort of, I don't know, but it was just like I don't understand it. It's like, why would I want to be part of something where basically, like you said, they all knew this was happening and could be happening, but they weren't going to do anything about it. And it's like, I know my mom said that's because that's how humans translate what the Bible says. But I'm like, but I don't agree with it. So yeah. Anyways, back to ghosts. The one other reason why I stopped calling myself a Christian was because I was starting to have more and more like ghostly things happen to me, and that I mentioned it like once, like at church or something, And like the person was like, you shouldn't believe in those things and stuff. I'm like, but what about the Holy Ghost? That's different. Like, how is that different? It's a ghost. Like, I didn't understand why you couldn't believe in the ghosts, but you could believe in the Holy Ghost. I still don't get it. Or the Holy Spirit. Whatever. Whatever the word is for them right now. It's like, but that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Like, there's like a lot of things in the Bible that don't make any sense. And it's like, I still don't get it. But, let's see. I'm trying to think of other. One time when I was walking home from school when I was in 6th grade, I was walking by a bush, okay? Just a bush. And on the other side was a parking lot. And all of a sudden there was like demonic growling coming from the bush. And I went around the bush to like into the parking lot to see if anybody was like pretending to growl at me or something cuz there was bullies at my school who were really mean to me. Um, but there was like nobody in the bush or behind the bush, and it wasn't like an animal growl. It was like a demonic growl. It scared me so bad I ran all the way home. But I don't even know why. It was a demonic growl. I like, okay, but yeah. So I've run into some darker entities, but I've run into a whole bunch of spirits too. Like one of my like one besides my grandpa, the one that I knew for sure was not like a dream or my imagination or something was that there was like all of a sudden there was an African American person who looked sort of like a slave in my back hallway on a autumn fall like a fall afternoon after school. It was like okay. And the weird thing was like I couldn't see his eyes. It looked like his eyes were blurred out. So like you could see his like nose and his mouth and like his body because he had like normal white shirt, like pullover white shirt, but like old fashioned shirts, like slave shirts basically, and brown
Yeah.
breeches on, and he was just standing in my back hallway, and I was like, okay, and then he just disappeared. Like, oh, okay, how? I'm not really sure how to respond to this at all. And this was like in middle school
Yeah.
by then, and it's like, okay, whatever.
I've never been able to see them.
Well,
Just sometimes I can tell that someone or something is there.
I usually can see and feel them, but I can't always hear them, which is annoying. Because sometimes I see them and their mouths are moving. You can literally see their mouth moving, but nothing's coming out. Like I can't hear them. And it's like
Hmm.
I really want to help you. I really want to know why you appeared to me, but I can't hear you. Or like if I can somewhat hear them, it's like someone talking through underwater or something. So it's like muffled and distorted, and
Distorted?
yeah, I can never understand them. And so like the joke is because like this comes to the whole my username is lazy third eye. I'm making fun of my third eye because I think it's a lazy one.
Ah.
Because I made this joke a while back. Because, like, I have to have the laziest third eye ever. Because, like, I'll see, I'll feel, I'll know somebody's there, but I can't hear them, and sometimes I can't see them, which is annoying. Because, like, I know they're there. I know they're standing right behind me, but I can't see them. And I'll turn around and go, I know you're here, but I can't see you. And the worst part was the basement at my old house. Because I've moved twice since my since for a long time ago. But my old house, the basement. I hated the basement, like the empty part of the basement, because it was creepy as all get out. Besides the fact that it was unfinished, it was just really creepy. And the bad part was I was living in the basement at the time. And so it was like, why do I have to live in the basement? Because my sister didn't want to live in the basement. That's why. But yeah, because like we always had the door to the unfinished part of the basement like slightly open because that was where the cat litter box was. But it always feels like someone's standing there just staring at me through the gap between the door and the frame. They're just standing there and just glaring at me. And it wasn't like a nice, like, they're just staring at me. They were glaring at me, like, we don't want you down here. We don't want you here. And it was like, well, I can't do anything about that, can I? But yeah, since like all of my different experiences, it got me really into ghosts. And the funny thing is, I started watching a whole bunch of ghost related shows and stuff, so.
I don't believe there's anything legitimate about those shows on TV.
Well, okay, yeah, I agree with you on some of them, but I think there are some like they do sometimes capture actual like entities and stuff. But yeah, I know what you mean. But at the same time, I like to believe I like to believe that they might actually be somewhat legit. Somewhat. I know sometimes you can fake a lot of the stuff, especially with cameras and things, but
Well, the thing is, as humanity is now, we really are only using less than 20% of our brain.
well, actually, we're using more than that, like, but like, because we use more than that in our brain, but it's the intelligent part